Hi, Rewatch Podcast listeners. I'm Cory.
I'm Tom.
And I'm Nathan.
First off, let me say that we have all had a blast doing the Rewatch Podcast. Every week, we put out another episode for free for you. And although we enjoy these discussions with each other, we truly do this for you guys out there in podcast land.
That's right, Cory. But we are here today to tell you about Patreon. Every week, there are costs involved in podcasting about film and television, including hosting and bandwidth charges, our own personal internet usage, and film or show rentals and purchases. So, we're asking you to become a Patreon supporter.
If you can afford as little as $1 to throw our way per month, it would really help us keep the lights on. And if you want to send $100 our way every month, we wouldn't turn that down either. But it's your choice, and we appreciate the support you bring.
As always, we strive to bring you the best quality shows we can create, and we hope that you enjoy them. So head on over to patreon.com/rewatchpodcast to become one of our patrons and show your support for the Rewatch Podcast.
And if we get enough patrons, we may even be able to produce exclusive content just for the supporters in the form of simply getting episodes before the main feed release, or even bonus film discussion episodes as a thank you for your support. The website again is patreon.com/rewatchpodcast.
Thanks, everyone.
What if you could find brand new worlds right here on Earth, where anything is possible? Same planet, different dimension. I found the gateway.
The Rewatch Podcast presents the Sliders Rewatch, dedicated to the series Sliders on Fox and Sci-Fi Channel. Join us each week as we continue crossing the Einstein-Rosen-Podolsky Bridge and find ourselves in strange new worlds. Email your thoughts on each episode to the rewatchpodcast@gmail.com. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/rewatchpodcast or on Twitter @rewatchpod.
And welcome back to the Rewatch Podcast and our Sliders Rewatch. I'm Cory.
And I'm the sheriff. The doctor. Either way, this one episode is worm crap. Worm crap. Worm crap. Sorry. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself here.
All right, well, thank you for joining us, everyone. And today we're discussing two more episodes of Sliders. This week it is Strangers and Comrades and The Great Work.
Yes. It's great.
It's so great. All right, so let's get into our first episode this week. The episode is Strangers and Comrades. It is written by Keith Dameron and directed by Richard Compton, a couple of familiar faces.
Mm.
And this originally aired on June 25th of 1999.
I knew it. We're not on Earth.
How's that possible?
We're actually on another planet caught in hyperspace. Hyperspace, it's what we travel through when we slide. Near as I can tell, we're caught between dimensions. It seems the gravity well of this world diverted the wormhole's path, sending us here.
You mean we're lost in space? I thought this never happened.
It never has.
Well, would you believe it if it came from Quinn? Your Quinn?
Okay. How much time?
It's not moving.
What?
The timer's frozen.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
It means we're in trouble.
Our sliders arrive in a new world which Diana quickly discovers is not Earth, but rather another planet they call Purgatory, caught in between dimensions. Indeed, there is something about this dimension that is also stopping the timer from working properly, as it is completely frozen. They quickly meet up with a group of soldiers from Quinn's homeworld, where they had defeated the Cro-Mags with a special weapon. This group was dropped off here after that to guard a mysterious bunker, but soon found themselves at war with a battalion of Cro-Mag soldiers who crashed there. Diana goes into shock, never having been exposed to this type of warfare and death and destruction, while Remy, Maggie, and Mallory take to the front lines to assist in battle. Diana eventually recovers, but wanders off base and encounters a Cro-Mag, but manages to shoot him during a struggle. She keeps him alive and eventually heads back to the human camp with him. Meanwhile, both sides of the armies are running low on ammo, and the appearance of Diana, a human, helping a Cro-Mag, allows for a temporary ceasefire and truce. The Cro-Mags have been attacking because they are after food, which the human camp actually doesn't even have. Remy convinces them to let him and the Sliders check the bunker and see if it has anything to help them, saying that they will split what they find. However, what they find is the Cro-Mag killer weapon they have been looking for all along. Unfortunately, use of the weapon devastates the atmosphere of the planet, so it's never been used again. Luckily, Diana finds a computer terminal inside that will allow her to call the vortex up and fix the timer so they can slide. A Cro-Mag infiltrator appears and tries to steal the weapon, but is quickly taken down by our heroes. Diana makes her computer calculations, Maggie opens the vortex, Remy activates the Cro-Mag killer weapon, and our group slides.
It's time you and I had a talk.
Yeah, you're right. I got a few questions of my own.
Okay, well, what's this all about? Why are the Cro-Mags interested in an empty world in the middle of nowhere?
They weren't until a Manta ship crashed here about a month ago.
So why are you here?
You see that bunker there? My orders are to guard it.
That's it, guard a bunker?
With my life. With the lives of my soldiers. With your life.
What's in it?
That's something that you don't need to know. Look, it just so happens that the future of our world probably depends upon what I do here. So you'll pardon me if I bend the rules of propriety in my favor.
You know, I got news for you, Sergeant. I'm not from your world.
Where the hell are you from?
That's not important. What is I'm a man who knows what it's like to have his world ripped apart by the Mags. I'm sort of on a mission myself. But I don't have to hijack people's lives to get the job done.
Okay, so let's check out the trivia here.
All right, so there was supposed to be a scene near the beginning there, which was a nice scene that would have been nice to have in there, where Mallory plays kind of like a psychologist thing to Diana. Like he's talking to her and saying, you know, you've been there for me over this past year. Let me be there for you. You know, I think that you're feeling bad, you know, for not knowing about Geiger and for what happened to, Quinn and Colin. And you're pushing yourself too hard. You're overcompensating. You need to, take a break, settle yourself a little bit, because she's, pushing herself too hard to figure out where they are and how to get home. And, she's just, getting exhausted, I guess. But that leads into the whole thing where she comes up with the hyperspace explanation that she gave us in the episode. So just a little bit of a different way to address that whole thing, which I thought it was nice, because so that he actually really cares about her.
Yeah, they do kind of just have a bit of a moment, but then it's just sort of glossed over, isn't it?
Yeah, because they haven't really said much, about, how, they met or, how close they are, anything like that, really. It's just kind of there, You don't really know. And I don't know, maybe they address that later in the season. I'm not sure. So Let's see. There's extra dialogue between Remy and Mallory when he's cleaning his gun. Remy's talking more about, how there's other worlds out there. It's not all going to be, death like this is. There's beautiful worlds out there too. He says something about how, joy is universal, but, pain is too. So there's a lot of it out there. And Mallory explains, how Diana brought him into Geiger's fold and how she gave him someone to care about in his life. And that's why the fact that when she goes missing, it hurts him so much and he gets so angry, because she's actually someone that brought these feelings up in him. I guess he hadn't experienced before. And then, Remy says, pain lets us know we're alive. And Mallory says, well, yeah, I feel that. That's all I have left. I feel the need to kill someone. So very intense scene. It's very, very, very deep. I like it. I wish they had left it in. These are nice scenes to have in there. There was extra dialogue during the last battle. During the whole truce scene. The Cro-Mag is, again, another interesting scene here. The Cro-Mag actually bears his soul to them during the truce thing, they're like, what do you want? And he's like, I want food, da, da, da. We've been cast out from our home world. And one of the soldiers said something about how, these, it's our world, like the humans' world. But the Cro-Mags make a good point of saying, well, it's our world too. You cast us out. That hurts us more than anything. We didn't want to be cast out from our own world where we were brought up and born. And he was really emotional about it, which was interesting. It's a different way to go.
Yeah. I guess thinking because we've always seen them as the bad guys.
Exactly.
But we've also been to worlds where the Cro-Mags are good people.
Yep, exactly.
But, yeah, so you never really think of these bad Cro-Mags as having these feelings.
Yeah, they're less one-dimensional this way. It's it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool that they are hurting, over the fact that this whole race of people, all the humans, cast their race out from their planet. It's wow. That puts a whole little different spin on it, after all this time. There's in the script, Diana was supposed to unlock the bunker. It wasn't going to be blown up by Mallory. So it was a little less dramatic. I guess, explosions are good. So why not?
Well, she's a sciencey person, so why wouldn't she be able to
Well, yeah, exactly.
do that?
Exactly. And then now all of this. Now, of course, all these deleted scenes we get here from iReactions helping us out once again. Definitely appreciate it. He sent us this stuff here about the original episode. This is called Strangers and Comrades. The original idea for this third episode, nothing like what actually came to be. So Keith Dameron had I guess two ideas, and the first one, this is the one that won out. The second one, the first one though, was he had an idea for Remy to become caught up in an inventor's dream of exploring space. So it would have been a Remy-centric episode focusing on him with this inventor, trying to figure out, how to get into space. And Remy becomes tempted to leave all the others behind. It's kind of leads the story to see how the show could go on without Jerry O'Connell there, and his brother, of course. But it was just a focus on Remy to see, well, here's what could be, here's how life could be, in these episodes without him. And it was supposed to be a Victorian era slide, the world was still kind of stuck in that type of history there, the Victorian era, steampunk, I guess, that type of thing. But then I guess they decided that not that it would be expensive, but it would take a lot more work to make a Victorian era set than what we got here in this war-torn world, because Sliders relishes the war-torn worlds, doesn't it? So yeah, they said, well, that's going to take a lot more work, to put that all together, a lot more detail. Let's just go, this is a lot easier if we just have a war episode. So they went with the war episode and costumes,
It's a bit disappointing, really, to think that they could have done this mashup of, Victorian era space odyssey kind of thing. But instead just said, make a war story, whatever.
I know, exactly. Yeah, and that's this. I mean, this will come up a little bit later on in the next episode as well, because there's a possible link here that I thought of, and other people have mentioned some things relating to it as well. So we'll come back to this a little bit in the next episode.
All right. Well, we'll get a bit of time here, so why don't we do a quick impression?
Alrighty.
Do we have the time? I think we have the time.
I think we have the time, definitely.
And, well, of course, the episode that we put out last week, we record about a week in advance.
Right.
So we didn't have a chance to bring this up, in the recording of last week. But, of course, sadly, we lost Alan Rickman. I guess we should dedicate this quick impression to Alan Rickman's memory.
Right. Yeah. So someone on the forums actually did mention if we were going to retire the Alan Rickman quick impression. I'm like, nah, I think we're going to keep going. It's our tribute. You know, it's he lives on through us.
Exactly. So this one's for Alan Rickman. Cue the music.
Alan Rickman and Kermit the Frog have a chat.
So that's it then. The end of our journey.
Kermit.
Alan, none of that. We've been riding that wave of hope too freaking long. Our last chance just went south.
Then we'll just have to find another way.
Sure we will. We'll slide home tomorrow and take it to them. You and me against the whole Mag army. Between us, we've got a frozen timer, a muddy pal, and 22 rounds, so why the hell not?
Yesterday, you said you had enough hope for the both of us. Well, I guess it rubbed off. Now I'm going to have to give it back to you.
Save it. You're gonna need it.
Yay!
And
scene. I just got to play Kermit happy, no matter what. I think it's
I love it.
You know, you just got to do it. You got to do it.
Love it.
I may be wrong, but that's no fridge. Do we start taking bets on what it is or start pushing buttons?
No, button pushing would be bad.
What did Larson say that anti-chromag weapon was called?
Vorton KR-17.
This is it.
This is Michael Mallory's anti-chromag device?
That's what we've been looking for to save my world. I just agreed to hand it over to the Chromags.
What's it doing here?
Well, they've got a gun hiding under their mattress. Except in this case, it's tucked away in some far corner of the universe.
And they put it out when things really do get desperate.
I don't know, triggering another one of these things would probably thrash what's left of their Earth.
We can't turn this over to the Mags.
Well, we can't go back empty-handed. That'll end the truce real quick.
Okay, well, let's get into our discussion of Strangers and Comrades. All right, so we open with some narration from Diana about heaven and hell while she's cleaning blood off her hands in a battlefield. So, a bit of a different kind of opening, sort of setting you up for something that's going to happen later, because we immediately flash back to the beginning of the slide.
Well, it's a good way to get into an episode, too, because you get some narration and you don't have to worry about too much exposition, I guess.
I'm not too sure who this episode is supposed to be focusing on, because we do get a lot of stuff with Remy and Maggie, and then of course there's a lot to do with Diana as well. So I guess with her and the narration at the beginning, I think we're supposed to sort of focus on like her and how she's feeling about sliding and what she's caught up in. Like, she really didn't have a lot of time to think it through when she went with them. It was kind of just like spur of the moment. Let me get my stuff. Okay, let's go.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's interesting that they're at least tackling that.
Yeah, they focused on her a lot last episode too. So they're really, they're giving her a lot of time these last two episodes, which is good because we don't really know these two. We know, Remy and Maggie. We sort of know how they would act and all that, so we don't really know much about her or Mallory for that matter.
Yeah, but Mallory is really going to take a back seat in this episode. Like, he doesn't have a lot to do.
He's just hanging around with some beef jerky, that's like his thing.
At least for this episode, they've abandoned his struggle with having Quinn's memories and stuff in him. Like, he never really seems to have any episodes, as it were.
Right.
While they're on this slide. So, but we do slide back and. We do flashback. Slide back. We do flashback to the beginning of the slide.
We do vortex out, It's all good.
But, so they slide into this thing. And honestly, it actually confused me a little bit, this flashback. Because it has, this, super wide shot of, it's like green streaks in the air or something like that. The vortex way off in the distance. And then it comes in close on them as they slide in. And I was like, okay, it kind of looks like what we were just looking at, but not really. Was that supposed to be somewhere else? Because we do find out that they are not even on Earth.
Yeah, that I think that was a fact that when they did that establishing shot, it's very easy because there's nobody in the scene and they could just make the sky whatever color they want. But then when they get closer, I think to color the sky green would be a lot harder with the close-ups of their faces and all that. It just takes more work. I think that's just like a production thing. I just think they shouldn't have even put those green things in there because it didn't really matter.
No, not at all.
Like it wasn't like part of the script really or the story. It's like it's not a major part. But yeah, because I saw the green and I'm like, what the heck, And then they go up close, and it's like the green's not there. It's like, oh well, whatever.
I don't know. It was weird. It kind of, it looked interesting, but it was just a weird cut, and I kind of just threw me off a bit there. Yeah. I had to sort of settle back in because, they start talking about not being on Earth. I think Mallory brings it up and he goes, are we even on Earth? And, of course, Remy and Maggie are like, no, the rules are we're always on Earth. It's always parallel Earths. And then Diana pulls out one of her gizmos and it's just like, oh no, we're not on Earth. And I was like, what? Wait,
Exactly.
why were you talking about this in the first place? Like, and then for it to turn out to be true? What?
I know. I didn't like that. It's like, I don't, the whole being on this other planet, or even if it was like, I can't remember from the episode if it eventually turned out to be a planet or an asteroid. But in either case, it's like they're always landing in San Francisco. Even when the, or Los Angeles, the 400-mile range or 500-mile range, whatever it is, it's like the slide cage, I always assumed, maybe I missed that too, I always assumed the slide cage was just like on another Earth in between, you know, like the Earth they were trying to get to and wherever they were. Like I didn't think it was out there on a planet or anything like that. So I thought there's no reason why they should be going off of Earth onto a different planet.
Yeah, the whole explanation was really, really weird because they say it's like, you know, between dimensions. They call it purgatory, which, you know, that's very on the nose name to give it. But
yes,
yeah, it's like you said, like it turns out to also be an asteroid or something. And he's like, why would they create an asteroid between dimensions or something? Why isn't it just a planet? And then in that case, like if they can create these places between dimensions, then why not just create one that they could live on if their world is destroyed?
Yeah.
By the Chromag weapon that they use. I don't know. It just raises all these questions that they're not going to answer because, you know, that's not what they want to do with the show or something, you know. They don't want this to be a major storyline. That's just a reason to be somewhere weird and the time has not worked.
Yep. No, I agree.
Anyway. At least we got that out of the way. Now we can just get on with what the story is.
I know.
Because the army guys show up.
Yes.
Led by Larson.
Now he's someone, right? He's someone from other, like I've seen him before.
I don't know, he kind of looked familiar. I couldn't put my finger on it.
Yeah, I thought someone said in the Messages in Time he was on another, like was it Babylon 5 maybe or something, like he was on some other sci-fi show, I guess. So I don't. I've seen him before. I couldn't remember who he was. I liked him. I thought he did a good job.
Yeah, he does a pretty good job of it all. You know, he's just the leader of this army group. He says that about a month ago, this Chromag ship had crashed there. So again, it's like it's another question. I'm just like, you know, they have the slide cage because we do find out that this was created by the people of Quinn and Colin's homeworld.
Right.
Exactly where they want to get. They have the slide cage, then why do they also have this purgatory place? You know, is it like a redundancy of the slide cage or something? Maybe the slide cage stopped working, so they made this.
Right.
But even their reason for being there is kind of flimsy as well.
Yeah, guard the bunker.
Guard this bunker, and we'll get into like what's in the bunker as we go along.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all just a very flimsy setup. But yeah, we get into this whole thing with Diana, that she gets shell-shocked.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, you know, it's a pretty decent reaction to have, so why not explore something like that?
Oh, yeah. Well, and it fits her, too, because she's just a scientist. She's never really been out in the field, presumably, you know, and, like, seeing, like, people get shot right in front of you and, you know, weapons firing, you know, a foot away is, like, that would shake you up. That would definitely shake you up.
Yeah, and I have to say at this point, too, that Clavant is just bringing it again, because he's doing some awesome acting in between scenes.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
Especially once he finds out that, you know, they are fighting Cro-Mags.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's that.
The best part for him, just not to jump ahead, but the best part is when they find out about the Vorton device, you know, the Cro-Mag killer device, and, like, on his face, you're just like, oh, you could tell, he's just like, you know? He's like, all this time, you know, it's like, now it's done. There's no hope. It's like, wow, that was good.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, a Cro-Mag attack comes and Diana is saved by Mallory because, you know, they do that weird face shifting thing that I guess we can't come to an agreement whether or not they actually transform or if they make people think they're looking like that, but
exactly.
Yeah.
And like, why did he have to like reveal it right then? Like, if he stayed in character, you know, it's like acting 101. You know, come on, stay in character.
The moment someone looks at you, you change back to a Cro-Mag. Like, that's just a poor way to infiltrate somewhere.
Exactly. These are bad spies, Cro-Mag.
Yeah, and of course, you know, she's still shell shocked, so she's got nothing. Mallory jumps in to save her, but he's getting his ass handed to him. Mm-hmm. So Maggie comes in and finishes the job.
Yes, which fits her character too.
Yeah, and you know, this leads to more reasons why Diana is going to run for it, you know? There's
Right.
more battles, more gunfights. Then she's attacked by this Cro-Mag. Another battle comes. More bombs are going off, and she just takes off. She's out of there.
Yep.
So it's all pretty good.
Oh, yeah. No, it all makes logical sense.
Yeah. So Larson reveals to them that they are, from the Cro-Mag homeworld, and, he tells them all about, the place being purgatory and stuff like that. So I think at this point they actually ask if they can help them actually get to the Earth by bypassing the slide cage and go and see Michael Mallory. So I don't know, it's weird that they're still bringing up the slide cage, even though, we think maybe it was shut down or something like that, or they at least have coordinates to get around it because they did it even though they went to the wrong place with Isaac Clarke. So
yeah, he's surprised too. Like Larson is surprised you got past the slide cage. Like he didn't expect that.
Yeah, like you were in there and you got out. So yeah, I don't know why they keep bringing this up. Like, is there something we're missing here? Is there something they were supposed to have told us to say that there's a reason why they can't get there? Because I am still not seeing anything.
Yeah, I don't know. There was something also that I actually said about, why can't they just use the coordinates and go? I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on with that. It's just the writing, I guess,
I mean, if anybody out there knows, then can you go over to the Sliders.tv forum and let us know? But yeah, seriously, I still just do not get why they haven't been able to get to that homeworld yet.
Right.
So Diana goes head to head with the Cro-Mag, and she shoots him, right? So, and this sort of like winds us back to where we were at the beginning, right? Because she's, wiping the blood off her hands and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was supposed to be like a lot more impactful.
Yeah.
Like this whole thing about like, she's a doctor, so she's not just going to kill this Cro-Mag. Sure, she shot him, but she was fighting for her life, and she didn't kill him. She could have easily just gone up and shot him in the head. But the thing is that this Cro-Mag doesn't say anything. They don't make a connection in any meaningful way.
Right, yes.
So, yeah, I don't know. It just didn't quite build up to what I think they were going for here. I don't know how you felt.
Well, yeah, this type of scene has been done before in other, sci-fi TV shows much better, where the enemy is wounded and, the hero is with, the enemy, and they have exchanges back and forth, eventually get to understand each other, or at least know each other better. And then when they, return, it sort of like makes a big impact. But yeah, it didn't happen here. He was just sort of laying there on his back the whole time, pretty much.
Yeah. So I don't know. It just didn't get to me in any way. And,
well, no,
we cut to Maggie as well, because Maggie's actually kind of a bit upset that Diana's run off.
Mm-hmm.
And she starts talking about how, they've sort of been like mutually exchanging information.
Oh my God, no.
Yeah, and I was like, we haven't seen this. You're just telling us this. There's no impact here. Like, why suddenly telling us that you're so upset that Diana's gone? I don't get it.
And Maggie's understanding physics now. Hyperspace, time, sliding physics now. So.
Oh man, if she starts like coming up with scientific theories for stuff, I'm just going to be like, get lost.
We've got Mallory right there. We got Mallory with Quinn inside his head. Like, he could be doing this as well. It doesn't have to be just Diana doing it all.
So we'll see. I guess we'll find out what's going to happen there. And then, so Larson tells them about this Voraton device.
Mm-hmm.
And how it wiped out the Cro-Mags. But yeah, it absolutely trashed the Earth's environment.
Yeah.
Something they weren't expecting kind of happened just a couple of years afterwards. So
right.
It's actually not a viable thing to use for Remy to get and take back to Earth Prime. So that's devastating for Remy. And of course, it just brings out those really awesome acting chops that Clavant brings in these moments.
Mm-hmm, definitely. And it was a good scene. It was like, man, you could feel for him. That's because this has been the whole goal. Get that weapon, And now what? Now, how are you going to save your homeworld? What can you do?
I have to say, I do not like the name Voraton. I don't know. It's a very cumbersome word, isn't it? Voraton device.
Yeah.
And especially, what we're going to get in the next episode. There's
a
few proper nouns that start with V over there as well. I'm just like, yeah, they unlike a lot of sci-fi shows that use interesting names for stuff, it just sounds like a made-up word, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It does. But it's right there. It's right there on the side of the device, so it must be real. The Voraton 2000.
Yeah.
Order now.
Exactly, like an infomercial.
Do you have Cro-Mags crawling in your house? Get the new Voraton 2000 XL.
Guaranteed to wipe out any Cro-Mag in the immediately planetary vicinity.
Now, how much would that be, Corey?
Only $4.95.
Only $4.95? How can you not order?
I know, and if you call now, you get yourself a free handgun for those close encounters.
That's right. That's another thing. You just brought up the weapons that they're using against the Cro-Mags are these, just like normal weapons. Like they're not like any super sci-fi type weapons after you think they would come up with something else to fight against the Cro-Mags, on Quinn's homeworld. They came up with the Voraton device. Why not like a mini version of that or something? Some kind of laser thing like the Cro-Mags have.
Yeah, I know. This is really weird. Okay, so they have the Voraton device. That's what it turns out is in the bunker. Mm-hmm. Is like, why they couldn't just tell the commander that's what was in there, I don't know.
Yeah, what's the big deal?
They didn't want it on Earth anymore because the last time they used one, it destroyed the planet. So I guess they didn't want to get rid of it in case the Cro-Mags came back. So they invented this world between worlds to hide it on. Yeah. Sent these guys there to guard it, right? Now, I know that they said, like, the Cro-Mag mentorship only showed up about a month ago or something like that, but why aren't these guys constantly being, like, restocked with all kinds of stuff,
Exactly.
You think they would send people over there to go, so, have you had any Cro-Mag encounters? Do you need more ammo? Do you need more food? Exactly. There's a lot of men here. It turns out nobody's got food. The Cro-Mags don't have food. The army guys don't have food. Like, nobody's replenishing stocks here. So
they're just left on their own.
Yeah. What's the purpose of having these guys here to guard your bunker and your Voraton device if you're not going to feed them? Like,
exactly.
It makes
They're going to die.
No sense.
They're going to die eventually.
Exactly. And then it'll just be sitting there for anybody to take, Cro-Mag or human alike.
Yes. No, I agree. I'm with you.
Frustrating. So, they end up having this truce because Dinah comes back with the Cro-Mag that she helped.
Mm-hmm.
They find out, everybody's starving, so let's just call it a truce. We're going to go in this bunker, and we'll share whatever we find. But they can't do that because it's a Voraton device. And, of course, the Cro-Mags betray them anyway.
Yeah, which I didn't get. Like, okay, when the guy came walking in, the way he played it, the way the actor played it was perfect because you sort of knew it wasn't him. Like you knew right away. Just the way his mannerisms and everything, you knew it wasn't him. But, like, when they cut back to this scene... or to the outside later, you see that the Cro-Mags killed Larson and took out his eyes.
Yeah.
And it's like that just happened. And like all the soldiers are out there. And no one thought to like fire a gun. There was no commotion. There was no noise. They just said, we're going to take your captain's eyes. Is that all right? Yeah, go ahead. Why not? We need to further the story. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
they would even be a bit suspect about it if like, they were like, so me and your captain are just going to go over here and talk by ourselves for a while. Don't come over because we're just going to be talking about private commander shit.
Exactly. Stay over there. We're going to bond a little bit. We're going to bond in this truce thing. So, yeah.
Yeah. And that's just it. Like, sure, they had a truce and stuff like that. But when they break the truce, it's not like they just start, like, shooting people or something like that. Like, they just get back to battle. Like, no, they kill the guy and rip his eyes out to eat them because that's what Cro-Mags do. Man, that is, like, really, really betraying the truce.
Yes. Exactly.
Wow. So, so I guess, they've resigned themselves to the fact that they can't take the Voraton device with them because they can't use it. Like, they know what it'll do. So, instead, they just set it to go off and slide out.
Yep. That's it. End of the episode. Yeah, it was fine. I didn't actually mind it so much, despite the little nagging things that we brought up. It was. I was like, all right, it's not too bad. Not too bad an episode. I mean, of course, I would have rather had the Victorian thing, but it's all right for what it is. At least they're not in a war-torn Chandler hotel.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I agree. I mean, the look of the world, the green sky and everything, all the effects were really well done. The battlefield stuff looked really great, actually. Yeah. Considering that they didn't want to spend a lot of money, making a Victorian era.
Right.
They seem to splash out a lot of money on making the battle scenes look good. So
yeah. Well, I think what I actually said is probably the cost was going to be about the same, but the level of detail would be much greater in the Victorian type thing. Because that's, for this set, I mean, really, you need like a desert and just a little trench, and then you just need some tents set up, really, and then a cave set, which we know they have. It's like it's not that hard to do. It's like it doesn't take a lot of detail. You don't have to worry about little tiny touches like you do in a Victorian world where it's like all steampunkish and everything. It's a lot more attention to detail is needed. A lot more work is needed, I think, with the Victorian type episode.
Like, it was fine. It was easy to poke holes through, though. Just the writing of the structure of the whole thing, it just didn't make sense. As an episode, as it was shot, as it was acted, it was fine.
Not one of the best, but not definitely not the worst.
Yeah.
And now it's time for another episode of Yes Ma'am with Maggie Beckett.
I'll give him 1 minute.
Whoa, what are you doing?
It's fairly simple. Keypad, LED for countdown. I'm giving the mags a going-away present.
Forget it. It probably has a sophisticated lockout system.
Guess not.
This has been another episode of Yes Ma'am with Maggie Beckett.
All right, well, let's get into our second episode discussion today. The episode
Good
is...
Good segue.
The Great Work. Okay, so this episode was written by Robert Masello and directed by Reza Badia. This originally aired on July 9th of 1999.
He's brought them in. If you didn't encourage the boy, he wouldn't be so rebellious.
This is Keeper James, our doctor, and Keeper Abraham, the master of the sanctuary, and my father.
Who are you? And how did you come to the island?
The island? Look, we were washed ashore. It was a storm. Our boat went down.
What boat? Where were you going?
Excuse me, we can discuss this later. Right now, this woman needs my care. Seth, help me get her to the infirmary.
Whoa. Where she goes, I go.
Fine, then come. Let's waste no more time.
Thank you for your help. We're very grateful.
You may spend the night. The refectory is this way.
Our sliders arrive in a new dimension with Maggie suffering from a possible infection received in the last dimension. They seek help at a nearby building, a sanctuary manned by a group of monks that seem reluctant to help, save for 1 or 2 younger monks who quickly befriend our group. While Maggie is cared for by Dr. James, our sliders fall under the scrutiny of the leader Abraham and are eventually locked in their rooms when night comes, a precaution everyone follows due to a group of villains called the Volsangs taking over the planet. The monks have been tasked with transcribing and protecting all the knowledge of their civilization, thus explaining their reluctance to help outsiders, fearing that they are spies. Indeed, Maggie soon discovers that her doctor is a spy, helping the Volsangs to find the monastery. With news of Volsangs approaching from the sea, Diana helps the monks transfer their information at a much quicker rate onto a crystal rather than the discs they usually use, enabling them to finish their task before the attackers arrive and allowing 2 of the monks to escape with the information while our sliders slide.
What'd you do? A little of this, a little of that, here and there. There. That sounds good to me. I've never been anywhere but this island. Looks like quartz.
If I'm remembering my high school geology right.
You're right. My father says it represents the purity of knowledge. The biggest and most perfect examples are displayed in the refectory.
Listen, when I told your father that we were going to leave the island, he said that wasn't an option.
Once here, no one ever leaves. It's not safe.
What happened? I mean, was your world overrun?
Yeah, most of it. At least that's what I've been told. After the collapse of the Hemispheric Alliance, the Volsangs were pretty much in charge. Why did you say your world? I knew it!
Okay, so, a fair bit of trivia here.
Yeah, so, in this episode, we had Mallory making some bad jokes there that no one really kind of laughs at. There was even going to be more. they were sitting there at the table eating, and the Abraham says the women eat separate from the men because they notice, the women are over there, the men are over here, and Abraham says, yeah, the women eat separate from men. They do everything separate from us. And Mallory says, well, I guess there won't be any new little keepers around here, huh? Which I think is funny, but yeah, no one laughs at it. When Seth is talking with Remy about where they're from, he guesses that they're from somewhere else, another planet or another star. Like, Remy doesn't have to say anything about it. Once he says, your world, he sort of guesses that they're from somewhere else, which was good. Shows Seth is a little quicker on the uptake. They talked about this favor, but they never really pay it off quite in the episode about what the favor was that Seth wanted. And I assumed what it was, and it was in this deleted scene. They tell you that he wanted Remy to take him with him. He wanted to get out of here and go with him to wherever they were going to go, like in the vortex.
Yeah.
And then of course, like we said in the episode, his father dies, so he wants to stay. But in this deleted scene, the Sliders convince him to stay and save the crystal. Because that's what's important, to save your world, not the physical fighting. So.
Well, that's kind of what I guessed too. If it wasn't that, then I thought it was like, you need to save Sarah as well,
Right.
Or if it comes down to like everyone's going to die, you have to save Sarah, because I figured those two were big setup. They were the two young people there, so they were supposed to be together.
I mean, I didn't pick up on I didn't think about Sarah's importance really until later. In fact, I thought so little about Sarah that when she showed up in the part where they're transcribing the information, I didn't even realize that was Sarah at first. I was like, until the end, I was like, oh, that was her. Okay. All right. Good. All right. Let's see. What else? All right. Now here's what I said. We're going to come back to this whole thing. This was like this episode was originally going to have not the Volsangs, but the Cro-Mags were going to be the villains. Okay. Which really makes so much more sense. And we can talk about that later. But Bill Dial and Dameron decided, you know what, that's too much Cro-Mag. We had Cro-Mag last time, we got Cro-Mag this time. Let's get a different villain. Let's get this other villain. So they came up with the Volsangs. So whatever, bad idea. The library that they were transcribing everything in, that was originally supposed to be an interdimensional library, and it was supposed to have all information, about not just their world but the Cro-Mags, and how to defeat the Cro-Mags. So it was going to be a much bigger part of the mythology or the arc, the overarching story for Cro-Mags, which I thought was pretty cool. Like, why not do that? That was great. That would have been a great idea. And so what they did was, and this turns out to be, I guess, the way Dameron would write a lot of future episodes. They got rid of a lot of the action scenes, and they started adding these repeating scenes that reiterated dialogue that had already been said to sort of like hammer it in about what's going on. Instead of just saying it once and expecting the audience to be smart enough to remember, they'll say it several times throughout the episode just to pad out scenes to make sure you can fit the 45 minutes you need or whatever. And that becomes like his style for the remainder of the season.
Okay.
It's like, oh, good, Yay. Yeah. Mallory, in this original version also, he was going to do the data transfer, not Diana, because, again, Mallory was supposed to be a mix of Quinn and Mallory. So, he should have had some smarts coming through there. And, of course, that was rewritten because Bill Dial and Dameron didn't really like the idea of Quinn being this mixed duo. So, that whole identity crisis thing eventually will go away. But, yeah, originally it was supposed to be dealt with here a little bit more. It's an interesting idea, what the original idea. And I think, personally, what would have been cool is to have both of these two episodes linked together. Like as a two-parter type thing, or even just a huge callback. Like, instead of the bunker being this Voriton device, what if that bunker was like a gateway to the interdimensional library?
Right.
And that's why they're guarding it. That's why it's so freaking important. Because they have all the information there about how to defeat Cro-Mags if it's needed by anyone. So it's like, that would have been great to have that been like a cliffhanger at the end of the last episode, to have them open the bunker and go in and discover like a vortex there or some kind of doorway that gets them into the library or whatever. And then it's like, what? To be continued, and then it leads into this episode.
Oh, they could have even done like, they could have set up the Volsangs. But then it could have it could have paid off. Like, they get into the library and they find out that like on like all these different worlds. The Cro-Mags aren't always just the Cro-Mags. Sometimes
Right.
the Volsangs or the, they just go by all these different names. A big reveal or something like that.
Yes, exactly. So I think that would have been great to do, and I don't think you need to change. I think you could still do the Victorian episode later, but I think the last episode, if they had tied it into this one like that, I think it would have been even better than what we got.
Yeah.
iReaction said his thoughts, on what he was thinking about the, Bill Dial and the storyline and everything. And he says, that he felt that Bill Dial possibly had dependent personality disorder, meaning he needs encouragement, approval, and praise from others, in order to keep, carrying and going on with something, and the Sci-Fi channel wasn't giving it to them, because they could care less. Jerry was not part of the show anymore. They renewed the season. But he wasn't going to be a part of it. So they're like, well, we have to air it. We gave him a renewal thing. So we have to air it, but whatever, after this it's done, so they didn't care. And this put Dial down in the dumps. He was just like, oh, this sucks, what the heck? And he even contacted, I understand this now, in light of this, I was wondering why he would even contact Torme. I think last episode I said something about that. Why would he contact him, Yeah. But he contacted him for approval. He started presenting Zikri's ideas as his own, talking about, Jerry's going to come back and do this and this for the show, because Bill Dial wanted to be liked. That was his thing. He wanted to be liked by Torme, get that approval, anything to give him that push to sort of keep going. So it makes sense. I mean, we're not doctors. We don't even play one on a podcast, but still, it does make sense. It does make sense. And then Rob Floyd was talking about how he tried to get Bill Dial to understand, that Sliders fans were smart. You don't have to repeat things, so much. You don't have to repeat it over and over again. They get it. They'll get it. But he said, he feels like they were just under a lot of pressure and they didn't have any answers. They were told just to produce and deliver. That's all they had to do.
I say it a lot. It's a real shame.
It is a shame. It is a shame. The possibilities are endless with the show, and it just got so locked into this, single thing. It's like,
yeah.
Well, all right.
There it is.
They should do more novels. They should do Sliders novels or something like that. That would be cool. Because then you could just, it doesn't matter about budget or whatever. You can really just go off.
Yeah, you can just go out, do whatever you want.
Doesn't matter
what the story is.
Yeah, when Quantum Leap was big, they had a huge number of novels that came out based on the show. Not all of them were great, but I read all of them, and there were a number that was like, wow, this is really good. This is cool. It's like, come on. There was a fan base out there for Sliders. Well, obviously there still is, but yeah.
Okay, well, shall we do a quick impression?
Yes.
All right, cue the music.
Arturo and Remy escape on a boat.
Professor, don't be afraid. Come on.
Have you sailed a boat before?
No, but I transcribed the nautical section of the great work. Which way should we go?
Let's try to find the city of angels.
And see.
A little short one.
Yeah, it was a very short one. I just like that little back and forth there.
Yes. And we haven't heard from Remy and Arturo in a while, so.
Exactly.
After the fall of the Alliance, the Volsang Raiders came together under the leadership of a barbarian named Vortak. They swept down from the north, from Alaska, from the Yukon wastes like a plague of locusts.
Well, no one could stop them?
There was no central authority left. No government with an army strong enough to withstand them.
But you survived.
Only through subterfuge. By pretending to be a penniless, contemplative order. But it's only a matter of time before the Volsangs come here, too.
Yeah, but why? What would they want here?
For whomever they can enslave. For whatever they can steal.
For the great work.
The record of all that our civilization ever achieved. The sum total of our knowledge. We must protect it from the barbarian darkness that swallows this world whole. There's much here that the Volsangs could use against their enemies. We must stop them.
All right, well, let's get into our discussion of the great work. So, it's a weird opener, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
They slide in, and it's Cold Beach,
right,
which I do believe we saw on Wormcrap World.
Yes.
Cold Beach.
Yeah.
And Maggie is sick. For some reason that we don't know. She's just sick.
Yeah, and they don't pay it off really either. They don't say
No.
why she got sick, what happened in the last world, nothing like that.
Yeah, it's more like a reason just to have like Maggie off doing something else while everybody else is doing their thing, finding out about the great work and stuff.
Right, and also like the cold beach too is not something that comes into play either. Like the weather, really, they don't talk about the weather after that. It's like, so it's a cold beach, you know, maybe it's early in the morning or something like that. It's cold, not a big deal, but they make a big deal about it, talking about it.
But they head off to this church, and we overhear these voices saying that they shouldn't let these people in.
Right.
And then we see this group of robed monk men debate about what to do. Talking about, like, we can't let them in, you know, what we're doing here is too important, and blah, blah,
Right.
blah, blah. But then this young monk, Seth, he sort of just shows up and lets them in.
Yes.
And his father, who they call him the master of the, I guess, the church.
Right.
He's, like, very upset that his son has let them in.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctor is skeptical.
The doctor, or is it the sheriff? See, as soon as he appeared, I'm like, I've seen that guy before. Where have I seen him before? I look on IMDb, and what comes up? Paradise Lost as the sheriff.
Yeah, he was the one who was married to the old lady.
Oh no, that was Parker. That was Parker.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the sheriff who what he at one point he came up and he was all upset about the worm attacking someone, and then he had to like he told him to dig it up or put the worm crap into the bucket or whatever. That's
right. Yeah. So we got a couple of ties to worm crap here. Cold beaches, the sheriff.
I wonder if it's
guy.
Is it supposed to be his double? You know, maybe it's supposed to be his double.
Maybe.
You know?
I don't know. They never call out that they've
No,
seen
they
it
don't. I remember you.
But yeah, you know, he's like, he does the typical doctor thing, like, you know, I'm a doctor, damn it, and she's sick, so I'm gonna help her.
Exactly. I'm a doctor, not a sheriff, damn it.
And we get a bit of explanation that they're on an island, and that you know, they look like monks, but they call themselves keepers.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems that like many of them have never been off the island, or you know, once they were on the island, they've never left again. So
right.
There's something going on here. You know, they kind of get a bit on edge. They don't know whether or not they can trust these people because you know they're given a roof over their head and everything, but they're locked in the rooms for the night. And
right.
Remy calls back to the way of the Oracle.
Yep.
If you remember that, you know, a bunch of what would seem like good people and religious people doing terrible things.
To their credit, they don't try to escape the room though and wander around. So that's good. They just sort of sleep for the night, you know, which is good.
They decide that maybe these people are on the up and up. They just don't want strangers walking around their church doing
right. We don't need to get in any more trouble than normal. So let's just stay here.
But Abraham says that the Sliders could be spies. We start getting like inklings of, you know, what's going on outside of this church, you know, what's happening in a broader scale. And then the next morning they're told to work for their food, pretty much. Like, you got to go and do some work. And Maggie's starting to feel a bit better, and she asks to see Remy. But Remy and Mallory have been sent down to the beach with Seth to go and dig up clams. They set up the Seth character here. He's like a very curious kid. He tells them that, you know, he was born on the island. He's always been here. He's been part of, you know, the Keepers his whole life. And he's very just curious about what happens in the outside world. So I don't know. I thought his character was pretty good. What do you reckon?
Oh yeah, no, it was a decent character. This episode I watched really late at night, and I had trouble paying attention a lot to it. You know, it was just like, I don't know. He's a fine character. Just nothing like, I don't know. I wasn't compelled to like really like feel or like really pay attention to any of the other characters, like any of them in this episode. It's just like, yeah, okay, whatever. You know, it's sort of, it's like the episode is like, it's there. It's just there.
Yeah, well, you know, he starts telling them, because they dig up some quartz and stuff, and he gets to talking about the Volsangs.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And seriously, like, when he starts talking about the Volsangs, I was like, Volsangs? Like, why does this sound so familiar? And it's not that it actually is familiar. It's just that the last episode, they had the Voraton device.
Right, yeah.
And
exactly.
then later, they mentioned that the leader of the Volsangs is this guy called Vertak.
Vertak, yes.
And I'm just like, who's coming up with all these V names for everything all of a sudden? That all just sound like made-up words. They're just, none of them are good names for anything.
Well, it just sounds like bad sci-fi, you know, when everything starts with the same letter, you know? It's like, oh, okay. I see what you're doing. I just thought, like, when they started talking about the Volsangs, I was like, all right, the Volsangs. It's just the way they described them. I don't know. I kind of felt like they were like, I don't know. For some reason, I thought Alien. Like they were just a lot worse than what happened. So that was my impression. Maybe just because, again, I was like just like listening and like, oh, okay, whatever, you know. But I thought they were just more exotic than what actually happens.
That's how I felt. I was just like, they've got to be some sort of like invading force, like the Cro-Mags or something like that, something huge. But as it turns out, the Volsangs are just barbarians, you know. It's just something like a...
They're Hell's Angels.
Yeah,
they
look
bikers.
like Hell's Angels. Yeah, but I guess they're like Vikings or something like that. They, you know, another V word there.
Oh, there you go, yeah.
But it's that kind of thing. They said that they came down from like the Alaskan tundra or something.
Right.
And it's like, what, this biker gang has
just
taken over the world? Like, seriously? Like, the payoff is just terrible.
Yeah, it is. It is. Like when they show up and you see him, you're like, who's this old guy? What is this? You know, like, this is the Volsang leader? He looks like I could, like, you know, take him pretty easily, actually.
Yeah. There's nothing about them that tells you they were able to take over the world.
Like, there's no sense of, like, doom. There's no sense of, like, oh, I'm scared. You know? Like, I'm freaking out. These guys are bad. Whereas, if it was Cro-Mags, you would have all this backstory that you know already to sort of add to the impending doom coming.
And, you know, they set up this whole thing, of course. You know, Remy and Mallory have befriended Seth. They set up that thing about getting a favor when he asks for it if he helps them. That doesn't pay off. Diana, in the meantime, you know, she's off doing the women's work, as it were. Very cliched that she's got to scrub the floors. But she befriends this girl called Sarah. She starts asking, like, why the floors are all warm and stuff like that. It's a weird question to ask.
It is. It is weird.
But, of course, that leads to something. Because, you know, it all comes down to it that they find out that in the depths of this church, it's all computerized. And what they're doing is they're cataloging Earth's history before the Volsangs came and took over. Just, preserving information, I guess. So even that was like a bit of a letdown.
Yeah, exactly. We're just writing. We're copying. That's all. Copy and paste. That's what we're doing down here.
And it's probably because it's directly related to the Volsangs too. So you're like, I don't believe that these guys took over the world. I don't believe that you would need to back up all of Earth's information. Like, exactly. And where are you getting all this information? Like, if you never leave the island, how is all this information getting to you? You know, it's a bit of a cliche as well. But, you know, when other shows do it, you know, it's like Armageddon or whatever. Let's, you know, get all the paintings from the Louvre and we'll store them in a bunker and we'll get all the great novels that have ever been written and we'll save those or something. This is just cataloging digital information on, you know, we get one shot of this, I guess, supercomputer that they've got down there. And it just doesn't pay off very well. And then the whole thing about, like, okay, you're putting them on these discs. They're putting them on LaserDisc for some reason.
I saw that.
And of course, Diana's just like, I can just take all your information and put it on one crystal.
Yes, one big crystal that everyone will know how to read in other places around the world.
Yeah. So, just the whole thing was,
Well, I'm just like, they tried to make it seem like a big thing, these Volsangs. And like when they start showing the ship, you know, coming closer and closer and closer, and you're expecting something great to happen, but it doesn't, you know? It's just like it's just this little group of biker gang guys. And it's like, is that the only group of Volsangs? Or are there more Volsangs around the world? And the lead just happens to go with this group. I didn't get the idea that they're, like a whole giant group that is controlling the whole world. It's just this little group here. It's just this little group here took over the whole world somehow.
Well, and you mentioned the ship, right? We keep getting the shot of the ship. Yeah. How badly rendered was that effect?
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
It was like a white cutout of a ship that they would put in, and then there was like one shot of an actual ship in the water. So it's like, yeah, it's going back to that thing of like, do they even care anymore? You know, we've been getting it in the trivia. Like, it just seems that the writers just don't give a crap.
Exactly. Someone said, I forget where that was. I think maybe it was on Earth Prime, about how it just seems like, you know, they don't expect an episode like this, like, you know, in the very beginning of the season. They expect an episode like this to come in the middle, or, you know, more towards the end where people have just given up. But it seems like they've given up already.
We've been getting all this set up with Dr. James, and Maggie. Like, for some reason, she's been, like, getting real close to him, even though he's been, like, real dodgy, like, the whole time. Like, he lies to her about having spoken to Remy and stuff like that, and she has to know that he's lying to her, right? Because as if Remy would just be like, oh, no, just let her sleep. I'll talk to her tomorrow.
Right, exactly.
Like, the minute he can speak to her, he would have gone to see her. But she's, like, getting close to him and stuff, and then out of nowhere, he's just betraying everyone.
I know. It's like, where did that come from? Why? Why are you betraying everyone?
Yeah.
Because this is the only way to save the great work? No, it's not. Come on, really?
Yeah, the only way to save it is to hand it over to the people that you're trying to hide it from? That makes no sense.
Well, you know, all those years of eating worm crap has riddled his brain. So it just makes sense, you know? You know, like, I can't remember where I read this. I was looking to see if it was in iReaction's email or, you know, because I read, there's a couple different sites that I take a look at, see what other people say about it. And someone had mentioned about originally it was going to be, see, that's why I couldn't remember if it was from Iraq, because if it was, I would have put it in here, unless I just blanked it out for some reason. But originally, Diana was supposed to be the one who was sick in bed, you know, being cared to by the doctor. And see, that would have made a little more sense because we still don't know her very well. You know, she might be way more trusting than Maggie was, you know, whereas Maggie should know that something's up if Remy's not coming to see her. So it would have made a little more sense that way. And then, of course, we could have had Mallory, you know, with the Quinn brain, do the transfer. You know, that it would have been a little bit different way of going about it, a little more realistic maybe, you know, with the overall arc that they were trying to do.
No, and plus Diana's new to sliding as well, so...
Right, exactly.
You could tie that into it, you know? Yeah, she's going from world to world, you know, she's a bit more susceptible to...
Exactly.
Germs or whatever, you know? She's got to build up an immune system, but, you know, that's why she's gotten so violently sick.
Exactly.
You know, it's not life-threatening, but she's really ill, you know? So they could have just... you know, explained it that way. Instead, it's just Maggie's sick for no reason.
Yeah, for no reason.
And it's going to take her like 3 days to get better.
Exactly. Exactly.
So the Volsangs, the whoever,
those
show
V guys, those Vulcans,
yeah,
those darn Vulcans,
led by Vertak.
Yes.
Now I do recognize this guy.
Okay.
He's Marshall Bell, and I know him from Starship Troopers. He was in Starship Troopers. He was the commander guy that is like hiding in the cupboard when they come into the base or something. Have you seen Starship Troopers?
I haven't. I read it was a good book, but the movie was kind of a letdown. So
no, the movie was all right.
You don't think so? All right. I never saw it. That's what I had heard back in the day, and I was like, well, I'll see it eventually one of these days, and just never got around to it.
Well, you know, so I recognize him from that, right?
Right.
So I'm thinking like, okay, he's a bit of a, you know, a known actor. Why are they getting him to do this role? Like, this is nothing. Like, he really does nothing. He comes on, talks menacingly about, you know, you've promised me the great work, take me to it.
Right.
And then by the end, it's just nothing. Like, he really just does bugger all.
It could be that the mortgage payment was due, and Marshall Bell's like, geez, I gotta get something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But, of course, big gunfight, Master Abraham dies, in Seth's arms as well. And then it's Seth and Sarah who escape with the backup crystal.
Right.
While, you know, I don't know, like Maggie just destroys the great work as well.
Yeah.
Like after they're gone, I'm like, all right, so they got the backup, so they can just destroy it, whatever.
Exactly.
And then they just slide out, like in the room with everybody there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, sure, you know, they kind of have like a proper reaction to it, where they're like, oh my god, what the hell is that?
Right.
But at the same time, it's like you don't know these guys. Like, what's to stop them from following you?
True, but then they're stuck on the new world. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I no problem with them opening the vortex in front of anybody because we've been doing it for so long now. It's just like old hat, you know.
But yeah, I don't know. Just the whole thing was just bleh.
Yeah, it was like I said. It was just I was watching it. It was just hard to really get into it and pay attention to anybody. It's like, it's just so. It's just like there, but like the thing that actually got me that I was like, nah, was that tag ending. It's like, really? Come on. This is the third time now.
Third time for a giant world. Oh
Yes.
my god, it's not getting better.
No, and the effect wasn't good either. Like they were all fuzzy around the edges and everything.
Yeah.
It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad.
Oh, let's get out of here because the phone's ringing and it's so loud because we're tiny. Whoa, crazy tag ending.
It just feels like something right out of that Slide It Yourself contest that they had, you know? The sliders arrive in a giant world. The sliders
Where
are in a
they're
world full of
deafened
idiots.
by a ringing phone.
Yes, exactly.
Whoa. Crap.
Another good helping of worm crap.
Yeah. So we're 4 episodes in now, and I think we've been fairly good towards the episodes, but this one's just...
Yeah.
This is
This one's
low.
bad. Yeah.
Low for the season so far. This is the bar, the low bar has been set now.
Yes.
If everything can be better than this, then it should be an even playing, but...
Yeah. Exactly.
More slaves to sell. And is that the great work? Yes.
Correction. That was the great work.
No! Put him with the rest of them. No, you can't do this! I can fix it! I can put it back together again! No! You must be new in town.
14 seconds.
Well, I have no idea what price these newcomers will fetch. Maybe I ought to keep them myself. I'm sure we'll find some use for them. For 2 of them, anyway.
Well, we would love to stay and help out.
But we really must be going.
We were just getting to know each other.
Before you leave, make sure you clean up this mess.
All right, well, let's get into some messages and timing.
All right, so a few people were glad that the villains weren't Cro-Mags because they were pleasantly surprised that it was this biker gang. I was like, really? You were pleasantly surprised it was a biker gang? I mean, I get it. You know, maybe you got Cro-Mag, you know, everywhere, here, there, and everywhere. So you're like, enough with the Cro-Mags. But still, I would rather have had the Cro-Mags than this biker gang because there was the Cro-Mags, at least, like I said, have a sense of doom accompanying them, you know, whereas these guys, it's just like a sense of just like, you know, bad leather and you know, whatever, haircuts.
Well, at least the Volsang Raiders fan club has one member.
Yeah, exactly. There's one of you. Anyway, and then, like I said, how they were asking, how are other people going to read the crystal after they get, you know, away from there? Because it looked like technology was like in a state of decay. You know, like they didn't have like the most modern type thing. So how's, you know, do other people know how to rig a crystal up to read, or rig a laser up to read the crystal? You know, is that included in information or what? Because it just seems like it would be difficult rather than the laser discs, you know, because everyone's got a laser disc player back then. A lot of people said, you know, I don't hate it, but I don't really like it either, but I don't hate it. So it's not like a ringing endorsement, but it's there, you know. And then someone was like, the false signs just look ridiculous. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
You know? And I will say, you know, it was hard to find some of these messages in time. And I don't know if it's the fact that the title of the episode was just The Great Work, because that's how I find the post relating to those episodes.
Right.
So maybe it just didn't come up with a lot of stuff, but there was only like 30 posts, like total, or threads, I should say, 30 threads when I did that search. And it was only like maybe 5 that were actually relating to that episode. The other ones were about other things completely. So I don't know if people are posting less back in 99 about Sliders as the season 5 goes on, or what's happening.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. So let's see. Then the messages in time for the Strangers and Comrades. They said, you know, the whole idea of this guy, you know, Mallory. I mean, why even use why even try to explain it as being Quinn? Like a fraternal double of Quinn, because he doesn't look like him. What they should have done is merge Colin and Quinn together and use like a computer that would like composite their faces together, and then just try to find an actor who looks similar to that instead of creating this whole new character that's supposed to be Quinn. I kind of get what they're saying. Like instead of
they're trying to come up with
right
anything that makes the sound better.
Yeah, exactly. So I understand what they're saying. I think though, like if you did a composite of Jerry and Charlie O'Connell, you'd probably just come up with someone who looks like another brother of theirs, because they very similar features, because they're related. So yeah, I don't know if you'd be able to, if it would be that different from their actual features. They said these scenes really belong in a war movie. These old guns rather than futuristic ones from Quinn's homeworld don't really make sense. So it's for them. It's just they didn't like it. They said Jerry Doyle was great, who was the guy who played Larson, the sergeant, did a great job. And the one person said, well, let's see, it's an asteroid with atmosphere and gravity. I don't think so. Nope. Just make it an alternate Earth, no big deal. But as soon as you say it's an asteroid with atmosphere, it's like, how? So the science of it is what they were talking about.
Yeah.
Gotta agree.
Oh, well, getting into some messages from Earth Prime, we do have an email.
Awesome.
Yeah. Do you want to take it?
Sure. It says, hello, podcasters. If I understand your schedule correctly, you are about to start work on the show for Strangers and Comrades, plus the great work. I want to say something about the former. Lots of people get hung up on Diana saying they're not on Earth, but instead are on an asteroid orbiting a white dwarf star. Please don't try to make sense out of that. The easiest and most logical explanation is that she's mistaken. Either the fact of still being in hyperspace or the hyperspace buffer that's keeping them from sliding back out is interfering with her readings. Just let it go. Yeah, I could agree with that. It's like, that's how a lot of the science is in Sliders. It's like, just accept it, move on.
Did she just say that? Yep. Okay.
All right, whatever. We're going with it. On a more general level, I don't hate season 5 the way some people do. While the overall season arc is inconsistent in spots, the individual episodes are mostly solid. I will grant that the great work that you're doing this week is a low point, and Dust, coming later, is one of the worst episodes of the series. Kevin Brown, a.k.a. Polite on the Sliders B-board. So the bar is going to be lowered. Still.
Well, I'm going to look forward to that episode, that Dust.
Boy. Yes.
Yep, can't wait.
I mean, I don't hate, I can look at season 5 now. Like I said, I think last time, I'm far removed from it now. When it first aired, I was just like, I hated it. Because I'm like, where are my guys? I hated it when the professor left. I'm like, well, we still got these 3. I hated it when Wade left. Like, well, we still got Colin, we still got Quinn. And now we got rid of everybody except Remy. And I was like, I just can't do it. I couldn't do season 5. Back then I was just like, I didn't like Maggie that much. I was like, I just can't do it anymore. So I didn't watch season 5. But now, years removed from the fact, I can sort of look at it differently, and I can accept it for what it is. It's different now.
And like I said, I think we've been more than fair.
Oh, yeah.
Up until the great work.
Definitely.
But, it has. The episodes, they're nowhere near as good as the first 2 seasons. But
no.
Yeah, they've been all right.
Yeah.
Pretty decent episodes, again, with the exception of the great work, so... We're going to call it out when it's really crap.
Right. Yeah.
We're not saying that the whole thing's a wash. We're saying, they're all right. We had good enough time watching them. Just,
Exactly.
We're giving you honesty here, people.
Exactly.
That's why you tune in to the Sliders Rewatch. We'll tell you when it's really crap. Anyway, next week's episodes are New Gods for Old and Please Press 1. So... I have no idea. Yeah.
I don't know.
Keep saying that. Yeah. Don't remember season 5 at all, so I have no idea what's to come. So we'll find out next week.
Exactly. That's it for this episode of the Rewatch Podcast. Keep up with listener interaction by liking our Facebook page at facebook.com/rewatchpodcast and follow the show on Twitter at rewatchpod. Don't forget, you can also visit our webpage at rewatchpodcast.podomatic.com, which has some of our favorite links there, such as Dimension of Continuity, earthprime.com, and the forum over at sliders.tv.
And remember, you can always send us an email or record a voice message and send it to the rewatchpodcast at gmail.com. And also, if you've enjoyed the show, please consider giving us a rate and review on iTunes. Always very helpful. And you can help support the Rewatch Podcast by heading over to patreon.com/Rewatch Podcast, where you can make a monthly contribution as little as $1. And, it just helps us keep the lights on. So thank you very much for that. All right. Well, thank you for joining me again, Tom.
Sure thing.
And I will just say until next time, if you wear long robes, work like this, and eat nothing but clams, you get a right to have the blues.
We gotta slide.
The Rewatch Podcast is not associated with NBC Universal, St. Clair Entertainment, Fox, or Sci-Fi Channel. The use of any and all copyrighted material is only for parody, news analysis, critique, or educational purposes, as provided in United States Code Title 17, aka Fair Use. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com.
Copyright 2016, The Rewatch Podcast.